Good morning or evening, whatever time it is for you. Hello. Hi, Alex. Good to hear from you. Paul, Olga, I hope you're all doing well. So, yeah, um, let's do some feedback on what you kind of sent me. I think here's the good news. I think we're actually a lot closer than it might appear on the outset. Because I did take a look at the do's and the do nots, and I think all this stuff is actually perfectly captured. Um, and I think if you're looking at it and you say, well, there's not, this doesn't look equal. I think you could just take the inverse of this and put it here, right? Like for example, if the do not is imbalanced list, then the do is balanced list. And if the do not is inconsistent spacing, then the do is consistent spacing. So, like, it might seem like there's a lot more do nots, but if you just take the inverse of them, you know what I like as well. So, uh, and the good news is that I think that this is all completely captured correctly based on the feedback that I gave you. So, you pretty much know what I want. There are a few things that I think. Let's just talk about some of the bordered boxes, because that was one piece of feedback that I kept seeing that was like marked up, and I should clarify. So there's one here where I think I would just like show you an example of what I'm talking about specifically that like is not. Yeah, I think it's this one. Okay, like this is what I'm referring to when I'm referring to the boxes thing. It it's not so much that I don't like boxes from edge to edge or something like that. I think it's when an entire site just gets kind of lazy with design. Like to me, this is something that I could do in Squarespace. You could do this in Wix. You can. This is like a self-service website builder kind of vibe. The fact that it's like, let's just stack like 7 rectangles and 3 squares or something here, throw some text and call it a day. It's lazy. It doesn't look good. Now, you contrast that where someone has like taken, you know, boxes and done a good job on it. Like, okay, so let's see. I have to go to, I was hoping to find like the markup where there were all those things, but I don't think I'll find that here because I think that's probably on your internal site. So yeah, I mean, well, first of all, let's just take something that we all know that I like, right? I like your site, the one that you're building, version 2.0, right? This is edge to edge. I have no problem with this. This looks great. And then I think there is a few other places that they do a good job as well. So where is it? God. I mean, this isn't too bad, all right, because they have a little bit of extra stuff going on here, and there's some elements here that keep it kind of fresh. Um, I will say I'm not a huge fan of this. Whether it's this just the spacing or whatever. Like it's not that I don't think these things can work. It's just I don't think they work for my brand because when I look at this, I'm like, this is very much feeling like it's a consumer site. It is something for. I mean, I don't even know what the hell this site is about, but I can tell you it's probably like drinking alcohol fashion or something like that. And I don't know what they're selling, but it's like they have this beautiful photography that elevates the site, whereas we don't really have that, right? We have logos, we have images of our client software, images of ourselves, but none of it's going to look like this. I mean, these are all like professional photography shoots. So it's like, how could you possibly make a thing that looks like this look good on our site? I just personally just that's why I'm like, I can't see a benefit of doing an entire site built around just boxes. So I think that is probably where the feedback comes from of like, if the site just becomes a whole bunch of rectangles, and that's fine for a site that has a lot of visuals that they need to showcase the product, but we don't have that. So I don't know how that makes any sense. And I also think on some of these super boxy things, I mean, I was going through so many websites. It just, it doesn't really have a sense of like modernity to it. It just, I mean, I know that some tech IT websites, they do this a lot, especially like cybersecurity and AI, but it's also like they're trying to appeal to a developer. So their audience isn't like marketers or founders. They're like, selling software to an engineer. And the engineer is like constantly living inside a terminal all day. So for them, like the idea of like hard rectangular edges and text that looks like it's from the Matrix and lots of boxes, they don't care. Like that's literally where they live all day. So for them, it's like, oh, this person's speaking my design language because they're speaking to an engineer and that's who they're trying to reach. Whereas for, people like you and me, it's like we are trying to appeal to a completely different set of people. So just throwing a bunch of boxes really wouldn't make sense. And I would also say as well, like, I don't think the feedback was totally negative on all the stuff that you sent over. I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but there was definitely several that I said I thought looked good, including yours, right? So, and the other thing too is like in terms of the larger conversation around like, okay, do we try to pivot to something that is like more traditional, or do we want to be appealing to the more like future focused ones? I don't want a traditional website. So that is my answer. I think I will agree with you that some of these look pretty safe and pretty traditional. Like, that's a pretty safe looking site when you zoom out and see it. That looks pretty safe and traditional. I mean, a lot of these do. I think maybe the more edgier ones could maybe be this one. Yeah, but you're right. Like these don't feel like very like innovative and forward looking. The funny thing about this though is that like when I was doing this list, I was pulling it from like the Forbes 50 top 50 like cloud companies and the Forbes top 50 AI companies, and then just like pulling out the ones that I thought looked the best. But the idea of like attracting unicorns and speaking their design language, it's like these are the sites that they have. Now, not all of them look like this. Some of them look, quite strange or different, but I don't know that it's, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I think for me personally, I like the more of the neutral minimalism look. I just none of the examples that you sent really like, I mean, with the exception of maybe your website, none of the examples you sent really go, oh, this is the website that I want for myself. And I think the same can be said for the examples that I sent you, right? Like, and I even said that in the videos. Like, I would basically say, I think, these are pretty good implementations, but I still had quibbles. The same things that, were being marked up in the document as like, oh, this is too cluttered of an area. Well, I'm in agreement with you. Or there's, a lot of rectangular boxes here. I'm in agreement. I don't like this. I think the point that I was trying to make with some of these sites was that they did a better job of symmetry and like spacing than any of the websites that you had sent over. So for me, I guess that's like a pretty big deal now that I'm saying it out loud. I think um, in part it is finding the right like design language, but also implementing it in a way that like looks like this doesn't appeal to me at all. Like this massive number they're shouting at you and things are off, things aren't symmetry. So that I think that's it's not so much that I'm like, oh yeah, I want a traditional website. I don't want a traditional website. And I don't think that like because I like symmetry and I like, spacing and all the things that I like that are listed over here, right? I don't think that means that we have to give up on having something that is more like future focused, or more innovative. I still want innovative, and I still think that's like the direction I want to go. But you make a good point here. I feel like it's hard for me to tell you like, hey, I give you a bunch of examples of very traditional websites, and then you think this guy really just wants a traditional website. What I almost think would be a good next step from here is that like we now have like after all this work, I almost feel like this is probably the most important thing that's come out of it, is that we're actually in complete agreement on what I do and do not want. So other than maybe this like traditional bordered boxes thing, I don't mind this. For example, like this doesn't bother me here. That doesn't bother me. But it's just when it becomes like I don't love this. There's a way to do it that's cleanly, and then there's a way to do it that's like excessive and not well done, like the one that I showed you over here or whatever. So other than that, like one quibble about the bordered boxes, I'm okay with them and if it's done correctly. The rest of this stuff is good. And so maybe I think like a good next step would be before we, sort of go down the road of like creating the concept, which we're in full agreement on. I don't want to have you do a bunch of work. I'm not feeling it. And then you're like, well, I thought this is what you wanted. And then I'm like, well, I don't really know what I want. That nobody wants to have those conversations. I don't want to waste your team's time. You want to get it right on the first try. I want you to get it right on the first try. Everybody wants the same thing. So I think because where we sit today is that there isn't really a good selection of websites that we have yet identified as having all of these things, that the next step would be maybe let's each try to find better representations of sites that actually meet these requirements so that we're in a better place going into the concept phase. Like using all of because from what I remember from what Paul was saying, it was like these initial batches of websites that you were pulling were done months ago. So, at the very, very start of this project, this was sort of references that you guys had created thinking that's kind of what I want, which is fine. But now that you've provided it, I've given feedback on what I like and what I don't like. I've given you additional examples, and we've basically said, okay, we like some elements of this. I don't love every one of these websites, but we like some things from it. We now have this sort of list. It almost feels more appropriate now to actually come up with, okay, now what are our like 7 or 8 reference sites that are doing a really good job of these things? And then we can all say, hey, this is like, IT style, and this is like neutral neutral minimalism. And that if we can all agree on that, I think we'll be in a really good place going into the concept, because otherwise, you're kind of taking a shot in the dark. You're trying to get all of these things done, but we don't have like any website that's done it perfectly yet, right? Like I think you can look at this, and as your designer was smart enough to point out, there are contradictions and all of the examples I've provided you, and there are, things over here where folks are doing some of these things well and some of these things not well. So I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like maybe I'll spend a bit more time trying to go through to find additional references, but I would also appreciate if I do that you could also do that, so that maybe like we can come together and bring another set, and then we all collectively say, okay, of this batch, we think these are the best representations of what you've said, and I give my sign off, and then your design team feels very confident going in, like we know a very clear list of the do's and the do nots. We have these references where there's no contradictions and everything feels like this is kind of these are all examples of things that he loves. And then we know what to make them, because if we make them something in this general, menu of things, then it's going to turn out well. Anyways, that's kind of like my thinking here. If you want to hop on a call to talk through any of this, we definitely can. If you have a better idea for how to sort of go from here, if you don't want to do that, if you think, we just want to take a stab at it without having any additional reference sites, or without any additional conversations, we can. But, I'm with you in wanting to get it right. And so if there are additional exercises, if there are additional questions, if you want to hop on a call, show me things, whatever, you tell me what you want to do next, and that's what we'll do. Okay, cool. Thanks so much. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Bye.